Hi, I'm Jaimi Jansen, and today I'm going to be talking to you, coming from Jaimi Jansen Coaching, about California tax credits, the PPP loan, and forgiveness. So we're going to start with forgiveness. Many of you may have received the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program loan, and one of the reasons why we thought it was such a great loan was because it was forgivable. So how do you go ahead and get forgiveness? Well, as with the PPP loan, there have been many iterations of the rules, and that is still the same for forgiveness. With forgiveness, the U.S. Treasury has recently come out with a couple forms for people with $50,000 or less and $150,000 or less forgiveness. With the $50,000 or less forgiveness, they're saying it's automatically going to be forgiven, which is so awesome. But it still means you have to fill out a form. You don't just get to take the money and run. So you will have to fill out a form. The form is called a 3508S, and that's for anyone with $50,000 or less to get forgiven. If you need help filling this out, please contact me at jaimijansen.com or message me here or DM me on Instagram, Jaimi Jansen. I'm here to help. I've helped over 200 businesses receive the small business PPP loan, and I am here to help you get it forgiven. It's so important that that money become forgiven. Now, when it's forgiven, it doesn't mean that you're not going to pay tax on it. So you have to count that money as income on your 2020 taxes. Now, if you are like me and a lot of other businesses, we had maybe a decrease in revenue. My personal training business had a decrease in revenue. So with that increase from the PPP loan, we still had a slight decrease. And so my expenses will still be high, and I'll be able to write off a lot of the things, well, actually everything I spent the PPP loan on, you'll be able to expense it. So it'll show up as like $20,000 in on your taxes, and then you'll have $20,000 of expenses, or whatever it is that you, the amount that you took from the bank. So for the forgiveness for the people who had $50,000 or less, you fill out a page document, the 3508S, and you also have to show proof of how you spent the money. So to get it automatically forgiven, you have to do that. Now that automatic forgiveness, the one form goes to the SBA, the 3508S. All of the documents that prove how you spent the money, that stays with the bank, and you need to keep it, and the bank will keep it for up to 7 years. All right, for forgiveness under 150K, it is a lot easier than it was originally saying that they were going to do, but it is still some paperwork. So for the people under 150K, I do recommend you get help if you got help to get the loan. And the U.S. Treasury likes to change the rules. So what does that look like? For anyone who received the EIDL loan, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, that was what you got directly from the SBA. You filled it out online. For those of you who did it right away, you were able to get a grant. They asked you in the very beginning, did you want a grant? And you put in the number of employees from 1 to 10. If you put in 5 employees, you would have gotten $5,000, and that was going to be considered a grant. However, you took the money as if it were a grant, thinking you didn't have to pay it back. You probably spent the money. The U.S. Treasury has changed the rules, and they say that that money, the $5,000, let's say because you had 5 employees, is no longer a grant. That $5,000 is now a loan, and it goes against the forgiveness, even if you had automatic forgiveness because you took less than $50,000. For example, your business got $49,000 for the PPP loan. Your business got $49,000 with the PPP loan. You take that money, you fill it out on your application, you're thinking, I'm going to get 100% of that forgiven. But you also took the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and you got a $5,000 grant. That $5,000 will go against the $49,000 that you will get forgiven. So you will actually have to pay back that $5,000, and only $44,000 will be 100% forgiven. And that will be a 1% loan over 5 years or 60 months. Yes, it is confusing, and yes, it might be frustrating that they continue to change the rules. So my suggestion for those of you who are in the position to get forgiveness, what I would recommend, and you've taken out the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, you've got that grant, I would suggest you wait to get automatic forgiveness, because you really want that 100% forgiven, including the grant. I think it's really misleading that the government decided to change it from a grant to a loan. And I'm sure a lot of you probably agree. Okay, so now you might be wondering, well, shoot, how can I wait if the forgiveness has a deadline? Well, absolutely, it does have a deadline, but it's not the end of the year. Repeat, it is not the end of the year. So if you got your PPP loan in mid-April, you got a loan assuming it was 8 weeks. Well, now it's 24 weeks. So you got a loan from 8 weeks and it was converted into a 24-week loan. So you had 24 weeks to spend the money. So this is really important because you might think, well, I already spent the money in 8 weeks. Well, if you are a sole proprietor and you are your own employee and you got $20,833, if you take the loan and you only ask for an 8-week forgiveness, the max you could have taken is $15,000 and some change. So really, you want to convert that to a 24-week. Most banks, they just automatically converted it to 24 weeks. So you don't have anything to worry about there. So you had 24 weeks to spend the $20,833, which is the maximum amount that you could have gotten as a sole proprietor, one-person business. And let's say you got the EIDL loan and you got a $1,000 grant. If you choose to do forgiveness now, which you absolutely could, you will owe that $1,000 back as a loan, 1%. So you won't pay very much money on that, but you will have to pay it all back. And again, that will take you you can take up to 60 months to pay it back. Okay, so if you got the loan in April, let's say you got it April 15th, you had till mid-September, 24 weeks to use it. Then, let's say it's September 15th. From September 15th, which is the end of your 24 weeks, you have 6 months to apply for forgiveness. So September, October, November, December, January, February. So you have until February to apply for forgiveness. So if you took out the EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, I definitely recommend that you wait until the U.S. Treasury makes a different decision and decides that that grant is actually going to stay a grant and not be a loan. If you go ahead and do forgiveness now and you have that grant money, they will in fact make it a loan. And if the rules change, that may not apply to you because you've already applied for forgiveness. So 6 months after the 24 weeks is the deadline for you to get maximum forgiveness for any of the PPP loans. Next, we're going to move on to the California tax credit. For those of you in California, Governor Newsom recently, the beginning of December, decided to share that he's budgeting $500 million to small businesses. How is this money going to help us, and how can you get your hands on it? He said that he was going to do $25,000 grants for small businesses to bridge the gap. Well, the gap is now. All the funding has run out. Where are we going to get, and when are we going to get that $25,000? Well, if you look on this California state website, what it says is information to be coming soon. So don't count on that money until the new year. If at that point there is some, we will let you know how to get your hands on it. For now, though, he is offering a tax credit. So there's $100 million that he's giving to small businesses in the form of a tax credit. So you need to see if you qualify. The way that you know if you qualify is if you had a decrease in revenue. So the first test to figure it out is to determine if you had a loss of income. So in 2019, if your income from April 1st to June 30th, 2019, so April 1st to June 30th, 2019, let's say was $50,000. That was your total gross revenue, the total amount of money that you took in, $50,000. If April 1st to June 30th of 2020, you brought in $25,000 or less, so 50% down from the previous year, then you would qualify for the tax credit. So 2019, if you made $50,000, and then 2020, the same time, you made $25,000, you would qualify for the tax credit. Now, how many full-time equivalent employees did you have? So if you had 12 full-time equivalent employees, you would then be able to get a tax credit of $12,000. And you can use it on sales tax or income tax. But once you pick, during the application process, you can't go back. So make sure that you have a good decision on how you want to use it. And I do believe that that money, that credit can roll over. So applying for forgiveness, applying for the income tax credit, those are all things that you can do right away if it applies to you. people have been calling me and asking me about the EIDL and if it's still possible to receive that loan. It absolutely is. The EIDL is the Economic Disaster Injury Loan. Now, this loan is for people who have been affected by the COVID pandemic or natural disasters. It does affect, your credit does come into play. They do a credit check. So if you've had bad credit, you may not get it, but it is worth applying if you need the money. The loan goes up to $149,000, $150,000. And it is dependent on your tax returns. So if you haven't done your taxes, you may not be able to get the loan. And many people are now asking about another stimulus. Is it possible? Well, every week since August, when the last stimulus ran out, people have been asking. And every week we've been promised and then under-delivered by the government. So we'll see. We'll see if McConnell and Pelosi and everyone can agree and compromise. Right now they're talking about doing something with another PPP loan, be able to go to businesses who have a 25 to 35% decrease in revenue from the previous year. They're talking about not giving out any more stimulus checks, but also extending federal pandemic unemployment and adding $300 onto your state unemployment. This can be really good for those of you who are continuing to be out of a job as it relates to the pandemic. We will continue to update you with additional information, and we're really looking forward to hopefully giving you really good news later this week. If you've received a PPP loan through me or the banks that I'm working with, I can help you with the second one in the event that there is a second one. So please follow me at Jaimi Jansen on Instagram, subscribe here below on YouTube, and check out my website, JaimiJansen.com. If you're interested in doing any marketing, any web development, any help with your business strategy, I can help you with that. We have to stick together during this time as small businesses. We make up the big economy in the United States, and without us, we're going to have a huge recession. So let's do what we can to stick together, stay safe, and be prosperous. Until next time.